Wassail. Today I feel compelled within this sacred energy to go back to basics and look at how I learned to read tarot cards, how you can learn to read tarot cards, how it will help me to go back to basics and think about all of the cards once again, how we explore them, because the cards are changing in their messages that they want to send out to us. So the tarot deck is 78 cards, which is a beautiful 6 division into piles of 13, which I find a very magical number to lay the cards out in before putting them back together. There's a kind of cleansing to put a new 13 frequency energy, to look for energy outside of time. So you have 22 major arcana, and then the rest of the deck is divided into suits, which begin with, I was going to pick up the whole pile, come on. So you get the suit of wands, fire, spark, and they're ideas. Now ideas are nothing unless they have emotions attached. So then we have cups. What ideas become if they have an emotional truth? And then those emotional truths get all kind of distorted, and we need to apply an editing suite, which is what swords represent, air, and that's the frequency we're now in. So they're the heightened. This ability to edit is really important. Swords as a suit in tarot right now come with an amplified energy. And then those 3 things, the fire, the wands, the water, the cups, and the swords that are air, are all internal shadows that we deal with to get through life. And then the suit of earth is how we take what we've learned and apply it to the real world that we live in. Now, this energy was, until recently, really heightened with that sense of a need to accumulate. And that energy is calming down now, so that this suit's also working with different frequencies, as are the others, but we will explore those at a later date. That was just to give you a basic breakdown of the tarot deck. Now we're going to look at the major arcana. So the first 22 cards, it might be a good idea to get your decks out and put them out. So I've done it with my Morgan Greer, which I'm going to help to use to explain how we look at the cards, but I also have my major arcana for the good tarot, beginning with that wonderful little fairy. I have the cards for the Aleister Crowley off deck. I have the Light Seers Tarot, and I have the Muse Tarot with me. Just to illustrate how the energies of the cards will come in different interpretations, but to begin with, lay out whichever deck is your most classical, but that doesn't matter. The Morgan Greer is my most classical. So I'm going to lay the cards down in the order that they come, with 6 cards first of all, and then another row. And what we're looking for is an overarching storyline that helps us to explain life and how we move through life. So I'll put those 4 over there. So we begin with 0, nothingness. This is the void. This is the chaos before everything. This is also represents stepping over the precipice into something new, having courage to move forwards. And there's a faithful companion trying to say to you, no, don't go forwards, that's scary. But it's the bravery that comes with this card, to have a trust, a blind faith that the new frequencies that are emerging around you, that the card wants you to tell the story of, is the frequency that's coming towards you, something fresh, something that you can unblock molecules with. And we are going to be talking a lot about our vessel, the molecules that belongs to the earth, and our consciousness that belongs to the cosmos. So there's this huge void of blackness, chaos. And from within that blackness comes first thought. And first thought is life, to live. It comes with no emotion. It's just the force of raw energy. I'm going to say, because I think of it that way, as masculine energy, but all these things are variants. It's very yang. It's molecules. It's the idea that from within the chaos emerges the raw masculine magician, and he uses the four elements, the wands, the cups, the swords and the pentacles, to create the entire cosmos, the whole solar system, this beautiful, wonderful piece of molecular machinery that is just floating and dancing around itself constantly. And so the magician creates this, and then the magician stands there and he thinks to himself, yeah, I'm proud of what I've done. That's a really beautiful cosmos that I've made. And what he doesn't realize is, because he was just the raw physical will to be in existence, that he didn't have any kind of thoughts other than to be alive and survive, and to have somewhere in which to dwell. And so that manifested energy leads to pride, which becomes an emotion. And when the emotions open, he's never had an emotion before, the whole cosmos kind of shakes, and a tsunami of every possible emotion comes in as the other extreme of his energy. So from pure light comes this massive crashing wave of pure, loving, suffocating energy. And she arrives, the high priestess, and she says to the raw masculine, this is beautiful. This cosmos that you've made is absolutely so beautiful, but you did it just for you. And that's really, you're a selfish bastard. So she says, get out of this creation and come back when you've learnt some emotions. Because raw masculinity is just that. It doesn't allow any life but its own. And that's what the fight has been at the beginning of creation. So then the high priestess, card number 2, she takes form and comes down to the earth as Mother Nature, and she's the Empress energy that births life. All over everything within the cosmos, she uses her energy to birth life. So she takes the molecules that the raw masculine made and she breathes life into everything. She births it. She gives it a sacred, divine coil of time in which to exist and flourish, all life. And the life can pass the life on, and it can keep reproducing as ripples and echoes. And so the world is created with life. Now, that's beautiful, but if you are the Empress and you just worship life for life's sake and celebrate life, you're not considering the fact that life brings death. So an oak is a beautiful plant, not an oak, an ivy is a beautiful plant, but it will grow around an oak tree and it can strangle it and pull it to the ground. So when the emotional masculine, because this is the high priestess, is divine femininity, and the Empress is emotional femininity. So when the Emperor comes back, the raw masculine becomes emotional. He comes in as a kind of pruner, a gardener. He comes in and he trims and he edits a little bit and changes things so that life can begin to be a bit more symbiotic. And he quite likes this. He likes to see the way relationships develop between the plants living in harmony with each other. And this gives him his sense of there being a greater force, this divinely perfect masculine force, which is the Hierophant. Now, the Hierophant has traditionally been a very authoritarian card, but that's because we were living in a very authoritarian age. We were living in a very earth-enriched frequency during the earth epochs that were causing distortions. And so to be emotional or divine in that period with your masculine energies that are within you, your yang, your molecules, it's been quite a tricky game. But he has his epiphany. This is part of his journey through the cosmic arc. He has his epiphany, and then the divine masculine and the divine feminine come together in the Lovers card to co-create a future in harmony and balance with each other. Card 6, the number 6, is a sense of balance. So you have 0, that energy of nothingness, but potential, the growing potential within the nothingness. Then we have card number 1, a beginning, that raw, masculine, molecular, constructive building. And then you have 2, which is about polarity. You have a destination and you have a starting point. You have a journey, and those 2 energies can now travel past each other, through each other, bind with each other. But at first, they just come in as 1 and 2, and they sit in a balance waiting for a movement. And that movement is 3, to set off on a journey outside of the parameter of just the 1 and 2 simple pathway, to step off that path and seek some kind of new energetic forms to work with. And then 4 is a healing, because too much life journeying without editing also creates distortions. You can't just go down the path of emotional femininity. You need to prune it with the emotional masculine. And that's an energy that's very difficult to draw together, to accept that balance of the emotions of dark and light and bring them together, make changes, snip little bits off. And then you have 5, which is an epiphany point, but 5's a change. 5's are when you've healed and you can add something new to your energy to bring around a new frequency in which you can move on to balance, divine balance, and co-create with spirit. Then we have the Chariot. The Chariot harkens back to the 2 pillars of wisdom, the black and the white columns, that are to do with the yin and the yang, the different extremities. And in the Chariot, after the co-creation, because we've been in this heightened energy of raw masculinity for a while, there's this sense of the divinely masculine guys battling himself with his need to kind of go, whoop, 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 I've created something great. Oh, he's like got on a breakout energy. So there's this hugely powerful energy with the Chariot, with the 7. And yet this energy of the Chariot is fighting its own darker shadows. It's aware of the shadows. It's visited the shadows. It's come and become emotional. It's become divine, the Emperor to the Hierophant. And now it's the energy pushing behind it to kind of celebrate the grandness of itself is overpowering. And that's when the raw feminine energy comes in, strength, 8. Now cards 8 and 11, justice, are sometimes swapped in different decks. I like it this way, but I'm not bothered if it's the other way. I am. So this is strength, the raw feminine coming in, holding the beast that is the raw masculine magician from early on in the journey, and just holding him there and saying, if you let this energy in again, I will have to kill you. Because the divine feminine will not touch the raw masculine. It's too far away energetically. They cannot come together. They can only come together when they're both emotional and then both divine. So she comes in as the raw feminine and she says, do that again and I'll kill you. I'll break your neck. Because love must conquer over your needless, unemotional destruction. I'm creating destruction from an emotional, loving standpoint. And that's why strength's such an important card. It's the raw feminine energy. So the first appearance of the masculine energy was raw. The first appearance of the feminine energy was completely divine, because they're polarities, they're the opposite ends of life. And he's moved through to become spiritual, divine masculine. She's moving backwards to show that the raw energy that can destroy as feminine frequency is to create love. It's to learn. So it's an important thing. So she sends him away again to be a hermit, card number 9. To be a hermit and to just sit in the energy of seeking your inner truth, but balanced, having mind control, thought control over your emotions. Find your inner truth and then shine your inner truth out. And that's when you get the Wheel of Fortune. Because you've changed the frequency at which your molecules were trapped vibrating due to the earth energies. So you've had your epiphany. The wheel moves on and new energies come towards you. So this is a wonderfully fortuitous card. Interestingly, there's that sense of a emperor and empress, or divine masculine, divine feminine, holding up cups of love, and the old energy just falling away as the circle turns. There's a real celebration to the energy of that card. And that brings balance, clarity, justice, all of those things. It weighs up the pros and the cons of where you've moved through your shadowy emotional work that the cards have suggested in the reading. You've taken that on board and you've worked with it and you've thought about it and changed the way you think, so that you can come at something from a very balanced perspective. And that brings you to see the world in a new way. The Hanged Man's really powerful energy. It's about waiting, pausing. You've just gone through a huge emotional shift of 11 major cards, working with masculinity and femininity within your soul and seeking balance for it. And now pause, just integrate that energy. Feel that it's possible to turn all of your thoughts on the subject that you've just been working through, or the emotions or the attachments or the addictions, and try and see them from a new perspective. And that's when you get 13 frequency, the magical transformation. And this is interesting because in this deck you have scythe cutting everything away and a beautiful white rose that's blooming. The other reference to the white rose was at the very beginning of the journey, when it represented that glimmer of light in the chaotic darkness that created divine thought. The interesting thing about the Death card, it's a transformation that you instigate through your internal battling with emotions that you experience. Then you have temperance, to temper, to take alcohol or wine and add water to it to make it less strong, to weaken it, to temper down the alcoholic nature of it, but also to temper our emotions. So you're seeing things differently, which allows you to transform, and this brings a wonderful, calming, soothing energy to you. And you feel good. You've reached temperance. It's a divine moment. And then what happens is the cosmos tests you with the devil. Now look, the devil is a reminder of this void energy, but it's got more layers in it because it's the whole void. But the point of it is that there's a blue bee in the middle here, and the bee is about sweetness and taking pollens and turning them into something else, the alchemy of change. And temperance is very much a card of alchemy as well. So this is, you've alchemized into something new. The universe then tests you with the temptations that you've previously submitted to. And then we have the tower. The tower is when the cosmos comes in and strips things away from around you. So there's two cards of transformation on this journey. Death, which you choose yourself, or the tower, when you don't do the work, and so the cosmos just makes it a lot more difficult for you and you have to face up to the energies that you're supposed to be learning from. So the tower comes in to strip you of everything. And then we have the star. The star is very much an echoing energy of the healing temperance card. It's a healing card. But this is about being stripped down of everything. You're bare, you're naked, your emotions are all on show, and you go down and you temper the waters of life, your life, so that you can move into a whole new, higher cosmic dimension. And then you're faced with the moon, deeply esoteric information that's hidden behind this veil that the high priestess sits with. And you have the sun, coming into balance with the emotions that pull you around the world and your own life force that shines down on the earth. Can you connect to those things with your new tempered understanding of the personality that you've developed? So you challenge yourself, cosmic energies on a bigger framework, and then you reach judgment. 20. Now judgment, it's like kind of sitting an exam in a weird way, but it's not so difficult. It's not like you've got to know the answers. You've just got to be the answers. You've got to be your own solution. And so you stand in your energy, and if you have achieved a new frequency and integrated shadows, then a new frequency will begin to settle on you. A portal, a doorway will open, and you will feel a new energy in you. And then that becomes the completion, the world, of a karmic cycle, a giant 22 card major karmic cycle that you go on. So when you're reading the cards and a major arcana card comes out, they're very important energies to read amongst the minor arcana, giving you the detailing on those much grander sort of story arcs. Now, you can obviously lay your cards out and read different stories from your major arcana cards with how they portray representations. I mean, this deck, this wonderful Fall card is like falling into a trusting energy, but knowing that you won't be drowned, that there's light language hidden within the cards. This Magician, he sits in a very calm, knowing less. There's far less raw masculinity about him. This is like a guy who's kind of done work. He's worked on things. He's a little bit further on. And you have the High Priestess here, with her openable eyes that are sometimes shut and sometimes they're open. And then you have the pregnancy of the whole world. You create your whole world when you give life and sustain the things around you. So there are lots of different messages that come within the cards. This one here, this Chariot, has a different frequency in that it talks of being drawn by your own consciousness. There are no reins on this horses. You're not in control. The movement forwards is cosmic. It's being moved by the cosmos, and the guy's clearly comfortable because he's squatting in what looks very precarious, but that's his comfort, his position of choice to ride forwards, almost like he's ducking down and surfing. And then you have this wonderful Hermit card here, where the Hermit's almost floating. Their beacon of inner truth has raised their frequency above the old difficult pathway that they've had to climb to reach there. This Ten of Pentacles with this sort of, there's a sense that it could all crumble away, and yet she stands on top holding the energies in place. So you can look at all of these different cards and see different interpretations, reaching down with this new understanding to access new life codes, runic movements forwards. So sometimes you're looking at the energy that the card has, but you're looking at how its energy is portraying itself to you. You know, the Death card with the most brightness from within you is a wonderful symbol of being clothed in the root energy of the earth, your molecules, but transforming yourself from within. And this wonderful Devil card that holds a puppet, as if it's saying that the temptation isn't trying to ensnare you, it's wanting to release you, but you just need to face the temptation again and pass by. This Tower, beautiful Tower card, full of wonderful natural world phenomena, transformations and butterflies, and it's nourishing. There's something incredibly nourishing about that Tower card. You know, this holding on to a single thread of light among cosmic chaos is a wonderful way to consider the healing coming into you. The depths of the emotional waters of this moon are really powerful, being overwhelmed by information from the moon. And this sunshine that seems to be like a spark of divine life pouring into the figure. So the cards all tell different unique story arcs, and it's worth always just looking at your own decks and laying out the major arcana and just telling a story, finding a way to work your way through a pathway, even if it's telling your own story in relation to the cards. It's beginning to see how the cards bring different turns of the page to each part of a story. You have to put their impact into the tale that you want the cards to tell. So I'm just going to show you another couple of decks just to show you differences. So this Muse Tarot, she's skipping joyfully to embrace the new and the unknown, because this is a new energy, a balanced energy. This, what was once originally the raw masculine, somehow seems like a balanced energy of feminine and masculine frequencies working, but with a much greater emphasis on divine feminine love to manifest rather than raw masculine greed to manifest. So it brings you another echo on the story. I mean, even because they're all female representations, the Empress energy, there's something less brash. There's something about her that says, I'm controlled fire. I'm really thoughtful about this. I don't rush into things. I've got all the time in the world to consider the best action in a situation. So it's a different kind of emperor energy, leadership energy. And then the Hierophant, which I call the Hierophantrix, is that energy of balance, divine masculine and divine feminine. So all of the cards have different ways. I mean, this one's lovely. The divine feminine seated on the enormity of the earth and being in balance with the earth. Wonderful, wonderful cards, all of them. And the way they tell different stories. This hanged man, which is called the Hanged Muse, she's kind of like she's being catapulted. She's dancing. She's so full of zest and zeal with the new vision that she has, the new way of seeing the earth. And this transformative death card here, so organic and so willing to sweep away cobwebs and energies that no longer serve us. And then reaching temperance, and temperance almost being shocked by what came after the transformation, like, it's more than I expected. I might have to wait a moon phase to sink into this. A calmness, a patience, that kind of energy. This wonderful devil energy where she's so gently and nobly in control of the distortions around her. It's like she has mastered the temptation. And this, I mean, that's an incredible Tower card. That rather than the idea of everything breaking down around you, your light, your energy is enough to support and regrow and put in place all the molecules that are tumbling around you, all the distortions that are crashing, to just be so in your own powerful tower strength that you no longer feel imprisoned. You push all the molecules away and use them to rebuild something else. So just really lovely messages hidden inside different decks of cards. I'm just going to show you the off for Hannah Spanner. Are you thirsty? So you have this wonderful card that's got all sorts of portals and egg shapes and zeros, and being forced to think about whether you want to move forwards, and crocodiles and lions, and there's grapes of abundance and coins and everything. It's like trusting in the future, movement forwards. Oh, that's a bit weird. I went through all of these counting all the cards, and yet I seem to have missed out the Magician, which is interesting. Where's he gone? Maybe I've lost the card and I've just been going around with a half-empty deck. There he is. There's something divine about this. It's like it's passed through raw masculinity. It's doing far more interestingly divine manifestations. There's something very grown up about that emperor. The net that the empress has as card two, the high priestess has, and then the empress seated amongst all these kind of stalks and pomegranates, and the moon and the fertility of everything, and sort of slightly turning away, like, I've made life, just you have to get on with it. And the emperor, he doesn't want to look either. He's sitting in his throne. It's like a non-engagement of the cosmic energies to do what they should be doing. So you can read all kinds of different energies into the cards. If you look at the positions, what appears on the cards, allow different things to ring through. So we have this lovely fall here on the Good Tarot. Beautiful, magical, kind of fairy type sprites coming in with this kind of, he's a very wise old magician. He's kind of seen it all, this one. And he's not amused at what's going on. He's lost his humour around life. As has, I would say, the high priestess and the empress. And yet when I pick these cards up and put them in a reading, they'll tell me other things. These are just the energies that are coming through as I read their stories. This overdressed animal emperor that's sort of, there's a distance to him. There's a kind of, he's like he's stopping a healing because he's stuck in his old ways and he's all dressed up. And then the Hierophantrix comes in again. It's a different frequency of moving that caught emotional masculinity past an energy to help it to create something. And this lovely card of love with the giant beast and in union creating a new pathway. So very differing ways to read the cards. This Hermit card with slammed doors, or are they doors about to open? Are they doors blocking you? Those sort of energies will come through when you're reading the card. Sometimes you sense the face that's emerging through the back of this card, other times you don't. The Wheel of Fortune with the tiny head of the person suggesting that your fortune is your pathway to move. There's so many incredible ways of interpreting the images to bring about the messages, but it's really important as you're learning to be familiar with not using the books to just sense reading a story, because within the Minor Arcana, each suit contains another story, but all of the cards that are all of the fours will all relate to healing. All of the cards to do with 6 will relate to balancing. So there's energetic numbers that exist within the cards as well, which we use. And colours, you learn about how colours affect, what they mean, what chakras they represent. So you're beginning to sort of pull from cards messages that shine and seem the most important frequency coming from a card a particular time you put it down. Sometimes cards, you see the energy of them sinking backwards as you get used to looking at them, and other times they seem to come forwards, telling you that there's a direction of that energy movement as well. So there's very intuitive things we can do, but first of all really get to know your major arcana, because you can peg most of what comes after around those energies as filtered down or less karmically huge energies. So anyway, that's a little tale about how I look at the major arcana. Have a look at your own, find your own stories in them, tell your own tales. And practice doing some readings where you just put out 3 cards. One which is, what are the old energies that I'm trying to release? What are the energies I'm trying to embrace? And what's the journey in between them? And just read the 3 major arcana cards. So we could just do that as an experiment. So let's do it with this. So collectively, as we learn our tarot, what are we trying to let go of? What are we trying to let go of? We're trying to let go of the rigidity of the pruning and be more fluid. There's a real fluidity about this card, this energy of spirit, air energy floating in. He's holding a chess piece, the chess piece of the bishop, the Hierophant. He's not ready yet to give up the hold he has over the kind of the molecules of the world. He's still not quite willing to engage in that process. So letting go of that energy. And then what energy are we trying to embrace as we learn to read the tarot? Well, that's 2 cards, and it's Temperance and the Lovers. So we're trying to learn to temper, to heal the way in which we co-create with spirit. It's like the cards are saying, we've been trying to tinker too much, and we need to learn to embrace an energy of healing from the distortions of our previous ways in which we've tried to manifest a life for ourselves and manipulate the world around us. So what's the journey between those two? What would be the journey between those two? 13 frequency. You've got to step out of all of these 12 frequency restrictions, and you've got to transform your inner palette. You've got to change the way you look inside yourself when you read the messages of the tarot cards. So that's just a simple little way of showing how you can look at things. Play with your Major Arcana, and as soon as I get moved by spirit, we'll work on the Minor Arcana. Hopefully we'll do them suit by suit in 4 little videos. And then we might do one on court cards because they're a bit problematic sometimes. Anyway, that's that. Wassail Beautiful People. Much love to all of you.